Hey everyone, today we have a 1972 Mercedes-Benz 280 SE, and as we can see, this thing is already on the ground, already on air suspension, sitting beautiful and low. But today's video is not removing and installing air suspension, as it's already on this car. Today we're actually going to go and take a look at removing current air management setup in this and installing the Airlift Performance 3P. So as we can see here, overdue for a trunk setup. New system. Issue that we're having with this is the controller. We get some lift out of the back, some low. Unfortunately, no lift in the front. Owner does want to get rid of this controller. Doesn't have this much slack, as we can see. Controller, our length, all the way to the wiring right here that goes into the Accuair. This actually only gets us possibly about to the back seat right here for access of a controller, which isn't ideal. Something that I like and appreciate with the Airlift Performance 3P is that controller that comes with the harness and everything will get you length all the way to have access to sit comfortably in the front seat right here and have your controller convenient. So for any of the questions we had for the compressors, wiring those up, since the owner has 1 and 2, which is great. When we get this new system installed, it's going to have dual, instead of these 380s, we're going to have dual 444C compressors. So we'll be able to run the single off the main harness, and then the second one, we're going to show the install of doing the second compressor harness connection to have both compressors set up with the 3P system. So what we're going to do is start taking all this out, all the wiring, start cleaning all this up, and then we're going to go ahead and actually use the these pre-existing pieces, just because they have a little bit of a unique cut to the body line right here, because we want a lot of this stuff to sit pretty nice and tight. Luckily, down here we have some of the support from the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all this stuff out. We're gonna rebuild this whole trunk setup, try and get it as clean as possible, because the inside of this car should definitely match the beauty of the outside of this car, because this thing looks so good. So any questions towards the end of the video, please at any point drop comments. If there's something that was a little gray on information, not really easy to understand of the process for the 3P system, wiring it up, or even the compressors, whatever it may be, please let me know. As I get more stunning cars, more unique builds, more stock as we go into modifying them, please let me know what questions you guys have. This is fun for me. It's a hobby, and I want to keep on bringing more vehicles to do these installs. That way, if it's something that you guys are trying to do, zero experience, I want to make it as easy as possible for all the step-by-step process, the removal, the install, and the wiring. So I'm gonna go ahead and start tearing into this car, get all this stuff out from the back. I think what I'm gonna do is possibly start figuring out the way to also set this up, and then just kind of go from there. Everything's out of the trunk, clean and clear. We do have the air line just kind of poking through right now and some of the existing wire. So I'll go ahead and get that stuff moved once I kind of go through how I want the wiring to be ran. Something I did want to go over that was addressed in a different video was how to go ahead and set up a second compressor if you're running one. So since I have all this all laid out, take a look at this real fast. When you have the 3P system in your primary compressor, you will have your main harness. The way to identify the main harness is that it will already have obviously your power, ground, that will be connected to the power and ground of your main compressor. You will have a connection just like this. This one right here is going to be a male end, and then we have our relay, and then off the main harness goes to the 3P manifold itself. So that's how we identify that this as the main harness. Also, this will have a good amount of slack and length to make the connection to the USB to our controller. This power and ground will go to our battery, power and ground, and then this pink wire right here will be our ignition. So So we can see here, it's not fully strung out and we do have some slack, but it is a good length that will make it to the battery, all the way back to the trunk, and of course, connection to the main compressor manifold. Now, the second compressor, what we're trying to look into is the second compressor harness is pretty much the exact same as what our main harness is. Difference is going to have our power and ground right here that hooks up right to this power and ground. Another relay. These both, by the way, could get mounted anywhere that is convenient. And then the only other thing is that it has one extra wire, and it is going to be the female connector. So what happens when these are connected, everything's powered in. This is like a signal wire, so we'll go ahead and turn on that second compressor when it basically turns on the first one. That as well, this second compressor harness, we can see this right here, and I have it strung out to the side, few coils, power and ground. This guy will also pretty much chase with our main, and then these will go to our power ground on the battery. Do note that you will have a box just like this. This comes with your airlift performance 3P setup, your primary one, and then when you order a second compressor with second compressor harness, you get the small pack, and it is the same components that you would get in this. Second fuse, 30 amp, same process, and I'll take a look at that too when I get this all dialed in. We'll jump back to how to go ahead and wire this portion up. One thing to suggest with all this stuff too, just to make it a little cleaner on both these compressors, this ground, obviously you would put this somewhere that's, doesn't have paint or anything on it, a good ground connection. This power straight through, and then I guess kind of the same thing. Remove this excess, put on this same connector, and then ground it. I don't like doing that, just in case of any reason down the road this needs to get replaced or stuff gets, needs to get disconnected. I suggest picking up these right here, these quick disconnects, male and female. This is the gauge, 12 to 10. These work great for adding on to these, and then you have a male female connector, and then it's just easy quick disconnect. So again, if this one over time fails, instead of having to cut and reconnect and all that, you just do these quick disconnects, and then you just easy to get that out. So something to keep in mind. Makes it a lot easier if you got to go back and change things or you want to move stuff around. But that is taking a look at the wiring for the 3P management. Obviously every car is going to be different, so how you run your wires, if you have them tucked on different sides, wherever it may be, it's all going to vary. But that's what I'm going to be looking into for this. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of start getting some of the stuff situated, run the wiring down through, channel it through the car, and then with this kind of put together, I'm going to get this wrapped, mount the tank down, get everything symmetrical and straight, manifold, and then that should kind of get close to wrapping it up. Luckily this car was already on air suspension and just needed a new system, so we'll get this kind of cleaned up and we'll take a look back at how things turned out. Okay, so everything's out of this car, and you see what we got going on is just a bunch of wires just running away from the trunk. And what I wanted to take a look at with this is how to do a the install for a second compressor if you're just running a single and you wanted to add a second compressor. Something that I was asked is how to go about doing the wiring. So wanted to take a look at this real quick. This is our second compressor harness. This is purchased additional, same as adding your second compressor. Tell the difference between these two. Your main harness on this short end will have a power and a ground that will connect to the power and ground of, I guess, your primary compressor. You have this male connector that goes, it's like pretty much like a signal wire that will run and go direct to your second compressor harness. Back to the first, you have your relay and then your wire, or all right, so everything back out of the trunk on this car, cleaned up, and getting prepped to do the wiring for the 3P system, main and second compressor. I wanted to stop and take a look at how to do the wiring on this for anyone that was having trouble, or if you're looking to add a second compressor because one's just not doing it. So I want to identify first our main harness. Main harness that comes with your 3P management system. It's going to look like this. So the back end, power, ground, these are going to connect to your primary compressor. So red, black. And then you have your relay. And then also trailing off this is our connection to the manifold itself. Now, something to note, we do have this male connector right here, this little short end piece. And then that's going to be pretty much like a signal wire that goes back to our added second compressor harness. Power ground, same thing. Power ground to our second compressor. And then this is our relay for second compressor. So pretty basic, straightforward on these two. And then, I mean, all this is our standard kind of setup. Something I wanted to take note of as well is, if preferred, it's definitely what I do, is instead of using what they provided for this like female connector and then this, just kind of, you know, drill or use a clean spot to mount this ground to, and then do the same with this guy. I prefer to use these male and female quick connects. There's a gauge size right there for you. I prefer using these for these connections, just in case at any point down the road, if panels gotta get pulled out, removed, if you know a compressor fails over whatever period of time, it's easier just to go ahead and disconnect them rather than having to go and cut and re-crimp and all that stuff. I find it a lot nicer to deal with that than what your original options are. So that's pretty simple. With this is power and ground over here, and then just that signal wire has to be connected to our main harness. The nice thing too is with our main harness right here and our second compressor harness, both of these, these both have just a crazy amount of slack that will lead up to our battery. So power ground, that is off our main harness, and then you can see this one's a little different, a little shinier, you know, a more darker red and black than that. This is our second compressor harness. Both of these are going to go to the power and ground of the battery itself. And then from the main harness, again, we do have our USB connection, has a short wire, and then connects to our controller itself. And then this pink one is our ignition wire. So that is all pretty much the other end of our harnesses. Pretty straightforward. Do you know that with your main harness, you get this box, it's gonna have pretty much everything we see right here, which is like zip ties, our splice fuse connector. It also has our 30 amp and then, you know, a few more things to make our connections. So primary harness, and then when you purchase your second compressor harness with your second compressor, this all comes with it. So same setup, and once I get all that in the trunk dialed in and get this all kind of nicely ran through this car to get to the battery, I'll take a quick look at showing how to just go ahead and make the connection for this to our power for the second and our main power wire from our compressor harnesses. So let me go ahead and get this now all cleaned up. I think once I tuck some of the wiring and get all that little dialed in, I'll get the trunk set up, put back in there. All right, the 1972 Mercedes-Benz 280 SE is finished up. So starting from the front with the wiring, the power and grounds that were laying right here, that was the main harness and second compressor harness. Underneath the chassis, running up, tight back in here, and then through the factory kind of like brackets that you see on this firewall, running down and up, made our connection to these two guys. These are our fuse holders that have 30 amp fuses in each. Power, ground, connected, locked in. So that simple, and kind of takes care of how to set up the second compressor harness with the install on a 3-piece system. Then running over here to the back, just to take a little look here. This is it, all dialed in and finished up as well for the trunk setup. 4 panels, everything locked in. Compressors mounted upside down with a lot of space. That way they don't bump into or interact with any of the body of the car. Wiring following original kind of like body chassis harness and stuff going through the back and hidden behind the tank. And then, I mean, that should be it. Do note that this block is a premium felt from Joann, so if you're looking for something similar, that is what I use. It's like a nice low fabric, so it doesn't have like a bunch of frills or stuff like that that comes off. So real nice, something to use if you do have like a black interior trim finish on your car. So tank, water trap, 3-piece system, everything else back here. And then jumping inside the car, controller is ran underneath the center console, easily accessible. That way if you just want to toss it in here. I don't know if this lifts up, but if this is like an armrest, you know, wherever you might want it to be, even on the air vents. So all about convenience. And then you do have this 1972 280 SE Benz. Do note that your fuse panel is down here on this driver's side footwell. The fuse right here, closest one is number 1. Then going back to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is where I have the ignition source tapped into for this car. So this first one, I'm not sure what this is. That is not the ignition wire. The ignition wire again is on the 6th fuse from the front closest in. So it's a little Easter egg, I guess, if you're watching this video and this is a car that you are either working on or plan to work on. But that is it. This car is good to go. So with that, if you guys do have any other questions on the install, the components, troubleshooting, wherever it may be, please let me know. Again, always more than happy to help out with some of the questions. And then I guess we will see after this what we'll have next. If there's something that you are working on or something that you're interested in, please let me know and we'll see what the next install might be.